Hi, it's Craig here, Product Development Manager for BlueWorx at Zag. Welcome to this highlights video of the BlueWorx Support Pack 9 release. In it, I'll cover some of the major innovations and improvements that we've made in the Support Pack. Here are the areas that we'll work through and explain as we go. From time to time, I'll switch from the core BlueWorx app to the BlueWorx Administration and Inspection Viewer apps. Please note that while this is a smaller release than those made in 2019 and 20, we've turned it around so quickly, following the Support Pack 8 release last September, both to deliver some new and improved functions to you, our customers, as quickly as possible, and to set ourselves up for the Support Pack 10 release. The focus of that will be the innovations and improvements we discussed last October at the BlueWorx User Group meeting. That said, there is more in the release than I'm highlighting in this video. All the changes are included in the release notes and where appropriate online documentation. So let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've done around notifications. The first is that we now propose to start and end dates based upon the notification priority coming from SAP. So if I come into a piece of equipment and create a notification, you'll note that the required start and end dates have defaulted, and that as I change the priority, it goes and changes those dates. The next item is that activity and task end dates now have to be after the start date. So if I go into an activity, enter a start date, my end date must be before it. The next change is in the order operations list. So I come in to one that I've accessed recently. We've added a button to the operations list here to initiate time entry. So that just stops you from having to drill into the detail in order to cycle through time entries against your operations. The next item is that now you receive a warning if you're completing an order with partially completed inspections that are not compulsory. So you can see I've initiated an inspection against this order. It's in progress, and if I try and close the order, then it's going to warn me that you've got optional inspections that are still outstanding. The next item is an improvement that we've made to the creation of field orders. So we've completely revised the Create screen to make use of the Neptune Designer. Visually, users won't really notice much. So if I went into a piece of equipment, went to create an order, the screen looks almost identical to the way it was before, but now if you're needing to enhance this in any way, it's much simpler for your developers to do that. So the next improvement is that we now, if you have a fleet equipment and you've configured that using that functionality in SAP, then when you go to an equipment record, it will display the fleet data. So I'll access my Ford Ranger again, and if I scroll down, I'll see a new section that only appears if it's a vehicle, and it has the relevant information coming through from SAP. So the next area is around providing for bills of materials for construction types against function locations. Previous releases we only did that for equipment, and that's now available for function locations. And in the same area for function locations, we've now brought through the plant section if you've maintained that in SAP. And that applies to both function locations and equipment. The next item is all around user experience. So the feedback that we got was that it's sometimes hard to move to the tabs when they're off the screen, when you have multiple tabs, especially on a small device like I'm simulating here. So what we've done is added an overflow selector here. So if you are on a small screen now, you get a drop down list and you can easily move through the list using that. Rather than having to try and scroll back and forth and make a selection that way. So that's for any of the main screens, work orders, notifications, function locations, and equipment. It's set on throughout the application now. So for measurement documents, we'll now check for counter overflow, the setting in SAP, and return an error message if the measurement document reading is below the previous reading and the measurement point has been set up in SAP to not have an overflow maintained. Where an overflow is maintained, then a warning message will return. So the next area is around some performance improvements that we've done and signaled this at the user group last year, and it's around the speed at which we can render map data that's held in SAP. So if I come into a particularly intensive map area, it's applying those items to the map. So this is a SAP data being overlaid, in this case on an Esri map, at a much faster speed than what it was in previous releases. Other change in this area is that we're now in the assets area. Instead of having one for function location or one segment for function locations and another one for equipment, we've combined it so that there's just one lot for assets, so that users don't need to know whether they're looking for function location or an equipment. Next item is one based on feedback from our customers around the ability to select all of the asset technical objects. Previously, when we before making the performance improvements, it wasn't practical to do so because if you had too many assets, it was just taking too long to render. Now, having made that improvement, we've provided the ability to, under the assets, to select all layers. Of course, that could end up being thousands and thousands and thousands, but it saves you having to check on everything that you need in a specific area. So the next improvement is around the specific display of assets on a map in relation to work orders or notifications. In prior releases, if you had objects that were dispersed over a large geographical distance and the map zoomed out to encompass all of the assets, then the display of the assets within those bounds might be lost because your zoom level had been set too low. So now when you go into the context of a map for things like a work order or a notification, it will zoom to a level that you'll see all the assets and it will show the location of those. So I can demonstrate that here. I've got a demo work order with an air conditioning unit in Auckland and one in Wellington. If I go into the map, then it's going to show me the location of both of those assets. So the next item is based upon customer feedback, and this is a new inspection question type used in conjunction with SAP classification characteristics. Where you've maintained those to allow for multiple values, then we now support that too. So if I have a look at this inspection with voltages on pole, I can see that I can select more than one value coming straight from, in this case, classification characteristics. In addition, we've also provided the unit of measure, another request from users. We've also changed it so that if a particular question has been configured to require comments, then it now shows up as a required field to save you hitting the complete button and then being forced back into doing that. Inspections related to orders in the outbox, we've now showing the order number just to help with you identifying which inspection belongs to which order. And in the inspection viewer application, we've now added some start and end dates so that you can go and select inspections that have been undertaken in a specific date period. The final item is around inspections that have had a duplicate result entered. So this can happen especially if you're offline, where there's been a bit of miscommunication. Maybe two operators have completed the same inspection, and when they submit, there's two sets of answers. SAP will process the first one that it gets, and it's always recorded the fact that there was another inspection there, but now it just highlights it. So looking at this list, we can see that there's an asset tag number here, there's a little symbol here showing that there's been a duplicate, and now when I drill into it, I can see an additional results tab, and it's showing me that I also gave another result for the same inspection that was different. So that just sort of tidies it up so that you don't have to search through tables if you're trying to reconstruct what happened for any inspections. Well, that concludes the updates for the Support Pack 9. Please remember to review the release information for a full list of the changes, and also check out the support site for information of new and improved functionality. I'd like to thank our customers for requesting and inspiring many of the changes in this release. I hope you like what you see, and that it offers some additional benefits to your organisation. Thanks for your time.